All right, we're here again on another edition of the program Flipside. I'm your host, Daisy Leo Asikidi, and today we'll be talking about something that we give a lot of attention to, and it has really gained so much relevance. That's migration. People are traveling a whole lot from Nigeria, and in the years before now, it was about people going through land, through sea, illegal migration. Then in like the past 3 years, it's been a lot of educated Nigerians running to UK specifically. But migration is something that is normal and it won't stop. But on the show today, we'll be talking about safe, orderly, and regular migration. Now, it would interest you to know that the Global Compact for Safe, Orderly, and Regular Migration is the first intergovernmental agreement prepared under the auspices of the United Nations to cover all dimensions of international migration in a holistic and comprehensive manner. It was adopted at an intergovernmental conference on migration in Marrakesh, Morocco on the 10th of December 2018. Now, member states agreed to review the progress made at the local, national, regional, and global levels in implementing the Global Compact of an International Migration Review Forum through a state-led approach and with the participation of all relevant stakeholders at the UN General Assembly, and then with the first IMRF to take place at the United Nations headquarters in New York from 17th to 20th of May 2020, last year it held. And this year's has also taken place. Next year they'll have this conference as well. But joining us on the show to talk about safe, orderly, and regular migration is the Edo State Zonal Commander of the National Agency for the Prohibition of Trafficking in Persons, NAPTIP, Mr. Unduka Unwawene. Good to have you on the show, sir.
Thank you so much for having me.
All right, you have been on the field for quite some time now, helping, sensitizing, reintegrating, and cautioning, a lot of sensitization work you do. And I'm just glad you could make it to the show today. But we talked so much about irregular migration, but I think it's also good we let people understand the benefits of safe migration, not only the risks of irregular migration. According to one secular, she's a writer, she said what she believes about Christians is they tell you the dangers of sin, so that you will not sin. They give you scare tactics. They focus too much energy on the devil and what he will do instead of focusing on the benefits of heaven. I don't know how true that is, but it's kind of true. So let's not focus too much on the dangers. We might still have to talk about it, but today we want to talk more about the benefits. So I'll start off by saying, what exactly is safe migration?
Well, thank you so much. It's good to be here. Well, just as you have said, migration actually is legitimate. Anybody can migrate, from one place to the other place, depending on the reason for migration. Some can go for greener pastures, you can go to further your education, you can go to work, economic migration in some other places. But the most important thing is that you have to be well documented. You have to go with the correct document. If you enter into another country without the necessary documents, it means you are an irregular migrant. And of course, you don't have the right to enter into another country without entering that country with the proper document. So whenever you enter another country other than your own, you must go with the correct documents.
Okay, now, but what are the benefits of going abroad this regular, orderly, and safe ways? Because most of us are going abroad for greener pastures in court. And I've heard of stories, I've seen people, in fact, I know people that went through the illegal route, and they're there now, they're building houses that some of us that are here cannot build. So if it's still successful for them, what makes this one so different? Why should this one be encouraged?
We can always talk about the few persons that have succeeded. It's not as if they entered through the legal means. You know, some can go and succeed, but there are so many other cases, you know, that have failed. In so many cases, and Germany, for instance, it's planning to deport about 12,000 Nigerians. Telling you, the German president visited our president just last week, and 12,000 Nigerians are ready to, you know,
come back home.
You know, to come back home.
Dear God.
You know, and of course, not quite long also, we had a victim that was deported back from Germany. She traveled through the land route, passed through the Sahara Desert, and then, of course, the Mediterranean Sea, got to Italy, but Germany was the final destination. She got to Germany, she could not cope with the weather conditions in Germany, and she's like wandering around the streets. So it was there, they picked her, and then eventually, at least she was able to identify the fact that she's from Nigeria, she's from Edo State, and then, of course, she was deported and admitted into the health care facility. So it's not everybody that, you know, are able to do it and they succeed. We have a victim in our shelter from somewhere in Edo State here. She was trafficked 10 years ago after having 8 children. And right now she's in our shelter. She's undergoing psychosocial support, and she's not mentally stable, you know, having been exploited for a whole 10 years and came back with nothing. We're currently, you know, working with IOM to see how we can, you know, provide accommodation for her, because she has been rejected by the family. We have gone to the part of Edo State where she came from to see how we can reunite her with her, you know, family members, and they said, no, don't bring her back. She left 10 years ago. So it's not everybody. There are few success stories. Then what about the failures? Yes, if you want to migrate legitimately, because it brings benefit not only to the country of destination, but also the country of origin. I mean, last year there were a lot of foreign remittances. Over $20 billion was remitted to the federal government, to Nigeria. So you can imagine the multiplier effect of such huge amount of money. But there are a lot of persons that even die on the course of going. Die in the Sahara Desert, they die in the Mediterranean Sea, and all that. So what is important is to migrate rightly. You know, because I just came back from Netherlands 2 weeks ago, you will see that, you know, even most of these European countries need skilled
workers.
Yes, skilled workers, you know, because they are having aging population. You know, so they need workers to fit into, you know, their system and continue with economic growth. So, but if you do it legitimately, like Germany, for instance, is saying that what they need talent, they need persons that can contribute, you know, to the development of the economy. Persons with skills, persons with knowledge. I mean, if you want to migrate, you don't have the requisite qualification. What are you going to contribute there? So, get the right qualification, go in there, the skills are needed, and of course you will fit into the system.
All right, we're talking about safe, orderly, and regular migration on the show, and there's so many dangers and so many risks involved if you're traveling illegally. And some people are trafficked without even realizing that that's what it is. And until they get to their destination, they won't know. They will still keep living under false promises and pretenses. We're going to try to let you know what these scammers smell like, what they look like before the show ends. But we have messages from the United Nations from the previous forums where they talked about migration. And these messages is just to let everyone know that they are in one mind, they speak one voice in terms of allowing migrants come into their country. It's open to all, but there are ways to go about it. So they're not against you, they're not stopping you, you don't have to sneak into the country. You can come in, they welcome you, but you have to do it the right way. So we're just going to push play to one of those messages. We have 3 of them for further enlightenment, and when we come back, we'll talk some more.
migration has always been with us. And climate change, demographics, instability, growing inequalities, and aspirations for a better life, as well as unmet needs in labor markets, mean it is here to stay. And the answer is effective international cooperation in managing migration to ensure that its benefits are most widely distributed and that the human rights of all concerned are properly protected.
Let me begin with this reminder. While most migration is well managed and undertaken through regular channels, not all people wanting to migrate find a suitable channel to do so. Irregular migration, with all its inherent risks, is related to the lack of regular and safe pathways.
You and I are people. Migrants are people. Regardless of passports or visas, we all have the same fears and hopes. And as human beings, we are entitled to the same fundamental rights, no matter where we are or why we are there.
In today's world, all societies are becoming multicultural, multi-ethnic, and multi-religious. And this diversity must be seen as a richness, not as a threat. But to make diversity a success, we need to invest in social cohesion, so that all people feel that their identities are respected and that they have a stake in the community as a whole.
All right, the show is still Flipside, the other side of the news. Every now and then we talk about brain drain, we talk about the number of Nigerians that have left our shores, we talk about the number of Nigerians that have died in a means to go abroad irregularly and all of that. But today we're going to focus on the more positive aspect of it, and that's why I have the Zonal Commander of Edo State, NAPTIP. So is Unduka the National Agency for the Prohibition of Trafficking in Persons, NAPTIP. That's the organization I'm talking about. So before we went on the break, we're talking about the benefits of going through the safe route. And now, some people are even trafficked without knowing that trafficking was the goal. They're giving false promises. They tell them to learn a skill. They actually learn skills. And you go online, you find out that this particular country they are taking you to probably wants this skill they told you to learn, but at the end of the day, you get there is something else. Well, what ways would people who are interested in traveling the regular way identify traffickers and smugglers so that they can withdraw?
Okay, there's so many ways you can identify a trafficker and even smugglers. But for smuggling of migrants, the slight difference is that, you know, the victim would have met a potential smuggler, you know, to be taken to a particular country with a fee.
Okay.
So you pay the smuggler, you know, to take you to, I mean, the particular country of your destination. And at the end of, when you get to that country, you pay the money that you've agreed,
Okay.
and it stops there. On the other hand, for trafficking, you are deceived, probably deceived, abducted, coerced, and taken to, you know, that country. But in the course of taking you right from the source country down to the transit and then destination, exploitation is a common feature. You are exploited, you are made to do so many things to make money, sexually exploited, and the money goes to the trafficker. So whereas in smuggling of migrants, you pay, the victim pays, but in human trafficking, it is the victim that is exploited and all the money, you know, she's making goes to the trafficker. And of course, the way you can identify them easily is that they make false promises. They want to take you abroad, they paint a very rosy picture as if you can pick gold on the streets of Europe. When you get there, there are no trees where you can pluck this gold or these dollars, and then you decide to, you know, to give it. Okay, you are going to be assisted. Why are you going through the land route? So many of them die on the way. The Sahara Desert is the hottest desert in the world. And you are made to go through the land route, and then you get to Libya, you are going to cross the Mediterranean Sea, which is also another dangerous part of the journey. A lot of them, die in the Mediterranean Sea because they cross with makeshift boats and balloons. And then you also cross to the other side. It's not as if it's Eldorado. So when you see somebody giving you false promises that are too sometimes difficult to resist, there's a red flag. And then somebody comes also, okay, we want to give you job. The job is there and all that. And then you are going to be taken to the shrine to swear an oath. Why are you being taken to the shrine to swear an oath? For what reason? So the moment, they tell you that, oh, we're going to take you abroad, but you must sign some documents. You must go to the shrine to, to take an oath. There's a danger there. So it's very easy to identify them. And then, or they come to recruit you and tell you, please, don't tell your mom, don't tell your dad, don't tell anybody. Why are they telling you not to tell anybody? On one hand, the trafficker is pretending to assist you. On the other hand, it's telling you not to tell anybody. And some people believe them. And before they know it, they get to a point of no return.
Interesting. Okay, now even apart from those who are going through these means, there are very educated people, at least they went to school.
Yeah.
There are still fall victims in maybe not someone telling you, I'm going to give you a job abroad, don't tell people. Or they have another way they also go about this. And I've heard people say they've lost so much money through all of this.
Yes.
So they tell you, Canada is looking for teachers. Let's use that as an example. I have an agency that could help. We're a travel agency, and we're going to help you get this document. And the next thing you hear, these people are gone. So what ways can we also avoid these kind of people? Are there, and is government doing anything? I know you talk more about trafficking in persons, but isn't this something that, because this is another form of exploitation, because of this zeal to go abroad, isn't there something that can be done to also deal with these set of criminals?
Yeah, well, first and foremost, before you go into some of those offers, you just have to ask questions. You have to investigate. And there's so many ways you can know. For instance, if you just walk into NAPTIP or walk into the Migrant Resource Center, which is just at the Federal Secretariat here in Aduwawa, or you walk into IOM, you'll be given the right information on the country you want to go to. There are a lot of scammers. Recently, just within the last 1 week, Canada just discovered that there were a lot of foreign students from India that were scammed. They were given admission letters for a non-existent school in Canada, and they paid so much money, and they're already there.
And they have visas.
Yes, you need to ask questions before you embark on even selling your properties because you want to go abroad. There are persons that even resign from their jobs, legitimate job, to go abroad. They end up, giving out a lot of money they can even use to establish their own businesses and flourish here. So there are scammers out there that are making so much money from gullible individuals that want to go to Canada, they want to go to Europe by all means. So there is need for you to ask questions. There is need for you to assess the relevant information before you embark on such a trip. If, for instance, a school, the man comes, want to offer you an opportunity to go to Canada. This is the school and all that. Why not? The moment you go in the internet, you can even know whether the school really exists. So there are so many ways you can get this information on your fingertip, but because people are very gullible, they tend to do whatever they are asked to do, and at the end of the day, they get into a lot of trouble.
Interesting. All right. We would ask this one now before we go on a second break for the news headlines and all that. Now, if peradventure you've got into this destination country, as it were, and you find that it might not really be as you think, even if nothing bad is really happening, but you feel unsafe, what can you do as a Nigerian?
Okay, what you can do as a Nigerian is to first and foremost and immediately see how you can contact your country's consulate or embassy.
Okay.
They are the ones that can help you immediately, or even Nigerian Diaspora Commission, NITCOM. You need to let your country know that, you know, you are here. You're probably documented, you know, for assistance. There's no other person no other way that you can be assisted. We had a victim that was trafficked to Russia, 16 years old, and she was exploited by her madam. At a point, she felt ill. She told the madam that she cannot cope again. She needed to be treated. And it's not a place where you can just walk into any chemist
and buy drugs.
The madam was asking her to manage, yet she was dying gradually. And in the evening, the madam will come and collect all the proceeds she has earned for that very day. At the end of the day, she couldn't cope, and she was told, madam already told her, look, this is a Russian society. If you come out, you'll be arrested. So at a point, she was advised that, look, it is better for you to come out and be arrested than to die within that facility. She came out. She was actually picked by a law enforcement agent, but was taken to the Nigerian embassy in Moscow, and that's how she succeeded in coming back to the country. So the moment you are in that situation, try as much as possible, to link up with your embassy, your consulate, NITCOM, or even an organization, maybe a church organization that can assist you. That is the only way you can, be assisted
find help
to come back.
All right. Now the program is still Flipside, the other side of the news, promoting safe, orderly, and regular migration. And we're going to go on another quick break. When we return, we'll be answering questions about the documents you need. That's at least, let's help some people who are still thinking of Japa. That's our new term for relocating abroad. Documentations, the things you need to go to some of these countries, at least bad, all different, but I guess there are just certain things that they all have in common. Well, let's go on another short break, and when we return, we'll talk some more.
For the first time in September 2016, the United Nations discussed global migration governance at the General Assembly. The result was the unanimous adoption of the New York Declaration for Refugees and Migrants, which expresses the political will of all world leaders to protect the safety, dignity, and human rights of all migrants, and help realize the economic potential of migration. The declaration includes a commitment to develop a global compact for safe, orderly, and regular migration to be adopted in 2018. On the 14th of December in Vienna, to mark the 2016 International Migrants' Day, the International Organization for Migration and the Organization for Security and Cooperation in Europe will hold a discussion in Vienna on the prospects and challenges related to the development and future adoption of the Compact.
We in IOM have been working for the past 65 years to make migration work, both for the benefit of migrants and societies. Today, as the lead agency on migration and the newest member of the United Nations family, IOM has a vision for a world in which migration is well governed, in which migrants move as a matter of genuine choice and not necessity.
We at the OSCE have been working to make migration an economic asset for the countries of origin, destination, and the migrant themselves since 1975, when the Helsinki Final Act was adopted. The OSCE can offer a regional perspective in the overall discussion around the development and the adoption of the Global Compact. And we want to assist our 57 participating states to this end.
On 14 December, we want to discuss how IOM and OSCE can work together to forge a broad-based consensus in the region for the Global Compact that would help make safe, orderly, and regular migration a reality.
Together, we can protect the safety, dignity, and human rights of all migrants. Together, we can make migration a resource for all.
All right, we've come to we're gradually coming to an end on this discussion segment of the show. And we want to talk a little bit about documentation. I mean, someone tells you you're going abroad and doesn't require certain documents from you, that's a red flag. There are some documents you would need. I'm not saying you should hand your documents over to anybody, but I'm going to ask Mr. Unduka here with me, our zonal commander, to tell us about documentation, some of the documents you as an individual who is interested in going abroad the safe and regular way, you should consider having at hand before you even start your journeys.
Yeah. The first document you need to have is the passport, the international passport.
Okay.
It is with that international passport you will apply for a visa, to the country where you want to go to. Mm-hmm. And of course, the moment, that's the starting point. The moment you are granted the visa, it will indicate, the visa will indicate, the period with which you are to go to the country of your destination and when you are to come back. Mm. So when you have the visa, all other things will be in place. Mm. The moment you are granted the visa, by the time you are going to also, in the course of applying for the visa, you must be able to indicate what you want to go and do there. Are you migrating? Are you going for a job? Are you going for a visit? Mm. Or that kind of, all those things will be clearly indicated. If you are, it is invitation, you must be able to establish, the person who invited you, what is the means of livelihood of that person? Will the person be able to cope in taking care of you? And do you have the money to also stay there within the period that you are going to stay there? Are you going to be a burden, to that country? And then, of course, the moment all those things are addressed, you are good to go. Hmm. So you must have your passport. You must apply for visa at the right place, because there are also people who are faking it. Hmm. So you think you have the right visa, and then by the time you get to the airport, either at the destination, you face deportation.
Yeah. Okay, you did say something about having the money that you don't become a burden. Mm-hmm. I think this is where most Nigerians begin to have problems. Mm-hmm. From my little research about going abroad, whether in the UK or Canada, which is like the main in thing for us here now, mm-hmm. they will always ask you to have enough money for your cost of living, mm-hmm. then healthcare in the dollars, yes. And these, by the time you calculate all those monies that are needed, let's use those who want to study in the UK, for an example, could be talking as much as £23,000. Depends on the country, £16,000. Convert that to Naira, that's a lot of money. That's just school fees, so minus the other expenses. But what kind of supports and assistance are available to Nigerians who want to migrate the regular way? Because I think if it is cheaper for us, we won't be running to smugglers and traffickers and scammers who fall less victims. Yeah. So what supports are available for us?
For them, like those that want to migrate to UK, for instance, go to UK, go for schooling and all that, you are not going to pay all the money once. Mm. You pay a part of the money. The idea is the moment you get there, you can get a job.
Yeah.
You can get a job because they have a system that is very, very flexible. I mean, I have somebody that is doing, his master's there in the UK, and he attends school just 2 times a week. So 3 days are free to, get a job and, support yourself. And so the idea is that even with that job, you are able to pay the other part of
your school fees.
The school fees. But outside that, the UK, for instance, indicated that they realized, the money they were realizing from school fees from foreign students is quite huge sum of money. They realized over 44 billion pounds last year alone for school fees. That's a huge sum of money. So Canada, for instance, is also saying that realizing so much money.
Yeah.
But then, you know, it's also a burden on the government because they have discovered in Canada that, you know, there's stress in giving them accommodation. The accommodation is not able to cater for those who are coming in. So there is pressure in
housing.
getting accommodation because of the number of persons that are, you know, coming into Canada. So, but the major support you can have as a migrant over there, if you migrate, you know, rightly, is that there are jobs probably available, you know, for you to, you know, to support yourself.
Okay. Now, I think, shouldn't Nigerian government be looking towards supporting us? I know they're scared of brain drain, but shouldn't there be some sort of program, platform, where you support people to go? Because you did talk about the the monies we bring, remittances that we end up bringing into the country. In fact, if not for abroad money, some families for their extent, you know.
Yeah,
so
a lot of money.
it's a win-win situation if they manage it well.
Yeah.
So won't you advise governments to begin to look at these, maybe give us some kind of scholarships? You will sponsor your study abroad. You go, you work for 10 years, but you must come back or something. Don't you think?
Yes, something like that is quite possible, where we will talk about better management of migration. You know, for instance, what stops the Italian government, for instance, to say, okay, we need, for this year, we need 200 skilled workers from Edo State. We need 200 skilled workers from Edo State. And then they will go into Italy legitimately, work for some years, come back, and of course, another set again will go. So because that kind of arrangement is not there, that is why people will want to make recourse to all means, you know, to go. So if there's an arrangement where, you know, a particular country will say we need so amount of personnel, it's go. I mean, not quite longer. The Foreign Affairs Ministry still send technical aid corps, you know, Nigerians that are, you know, that are very skilled, you know, to go into African countries, you know, to render service, you know, to them for 1 year, as the case may be, before they'll come back. So the moment, you know, such arrangements exist, and I see a situation whereby, you know, where it will get to where a country, for instance, will say, okay, we need so amount of, you know, doctors or health personnel. Can you supply them? And then they go into the country, work for some years, you know, before they come back. But because there is no arrangement in place, that's why people want to do it individually.
Yeah.
But if you do it that way, I think it will reduce to a large extent, you know, the number of persons that are going into these countries. Like I just said that the German chancellor, you know, just said they need personnel from other countries who are skilled. And that is why they're bringing back, they want to bring back 12,000 Nigerians that went in there illegally or irregularly. You know, so that is the thing. So when you have the skill, they need, I just said, they have an aging population. They have an aging population which is already affecting the economic development of these countries. So that we need skilled personnel to fit into the system and be able to contribute still to the economic development of this country. So it can't well be arranged. You can see Saudi Arabia for some time, they were getting
doctors,
medical personnel from, many of them from Nigerians were going into those places, and some of them are still there. It is because
they had an
the
arrangement.
doors were open for those personnel. So it can actually make for better management of migration and prevent a situation whereby some persons want to go there by any means.
Okay. And now on the final note, before we let you go, your agency, using it as an example, we want to know what exactly you do. It almost seems very clear, National Agency for the Prohibition of Trafficking in Person, but what services exactly do you render?
Okay, I can just say that NAPTIP, first and foremost, has been in existence since 2003, and the Benin Zonal Office here is the first to be established, and from 2004. So we are almost 20 years old in Benin City here, and we render, services in terms of, let me just say, use the 5 Ps that we normally use. For instance, there is prevention. We raise awareness on issues of human trafficking. You can see, and with the red card, we go to communities and then symbolically issue the red card against human traffickers. No, it's symbolic because the yellow side is warning, like a warning in a football match. So the red part of it is, stop human trafficking. So this awareness is raised across the state, in marketplaces, in schools, in churches, and all that. Then we also prosecute human traffickers. We arrest them, investigate them, and prosecute them. That's another P. Just a few days ago, we had a conviction here in Benin City, less than a week ago, where a man recruited a 10-year-old girl.
What?
And 10-year-old girl, and trafficked, and the man was convicted, given 7 years imprisonment.
It's not enough.
7 years imprisonment, and to pay a fine of I think 12 million naira.
10 years old.
Yes, 10 years old, just less than a week ago. So we prosecute human traffickers, and that's at we had the first convicted human trafficker here in Edo State, in Nigeria, on the 19th of November 2004. That was when we had the first convicted human trafficker in Nigeria, and it took place here in Edo State when the Honorable Justice Constance Momo was the Chief Judge of Edo State. And between then and now, we've had so many convictions, over 630 convictions.
Well, that's a lot.
And we also have protection, another P, for victims of human trafficking. We have a shelter here in Benin. I just told you about the lady
from Russia.
that was trafficked 10 years, and she's in our shelter now, and along with other victims, where the counselors work with them, counsel them, give them psychosocial support, we look at their health needs, because there's virtually no victim of human trafficking that is exploited that doesn't come with one ailment or the other.
Mental issue.
HIV, mental issues, and so on and so forth. So protection for victims of human trafficking, is one of the main functions of NAPTIP. And then we have partnership. We are partnering with you in the media. We partner with international organizations, local and international organizations, because one agency cannot do it alone.
Sure.
I mean, you can just step out of this place and tell me, oh, somebody is being exploited somewhere. It's because of the partnership, and of course we'll intervene. I just said now that my men came from Asaba, because Benin covers Delta State. And they got back here about 12 midnight with 3 human traffickers and 3 victims, just less than 24 hours ago. So that is partnership. And then we have policy. The policy is initiated by headquarters, policy on victims' care, policy on, how you can investigate cases, and all that. So when initiated by headquarters, we implement it at the zonal level or the state level or at the liaison of offices. So these are the things we do. And then, of course, NAPTIP has adopted the approach of using the whole of society and the whole of government, to fight human trafficking. Everybody must be involved. Just like the media is very much involved.
Thank you.
Thank you so much.
All right, we're going to be ending the show at this time. We've let you know that traveling abroad like irregular migration is a no. It doesn't favor you. Yeah, a few people who have succeeded doesn't mean you will succeed. Those who died on the way did not plan to die. And that's not to say there are people who went abroad the regular way that have also not met bad things, but check the percentage of both ways, then you know which one to go. So plan your travels, get information. They said you can go to IOM office and get guidance. So it's not just about running. It's good that you go abroad and you're open to healthcare. That's very, very key. If you're an illegal migrant, you don't really have the advantage of that. But if you go the regular way, you have nasal congestion, you go to the hospital. Insurance covers you. You cough too much, you go to the hospital. Insurance covers you, covers your family. And chances are, if you want to even bring your family members to come join you, it's also going to be easier than when you go the regular way. So there's so many benefits. But we will leave you with the last words from the former Secretary Antonio Guterres, talking about some of the challenges they face and proffering some solutions to it. I did promise you 3 messages from the UN so that you know that they are waiting to receive you, but you have to come the right way. So we won't play the full video, but we'll play a part of it. And that's how we'll end the show. We'll be back again next week with another edition.
Mr. President of the General Assembly, Excellencies, ladies and gentlemen, the commitment by member states to the Global Compact for safe, orderly and regular migration crystallized 3 core truths. First, that migration is a fact of life, a defining feature of humanity and our world, and above all, with a positive phenomenon enriching societies and economies. Second, that if poorly managed, migration generates huge challenges, from tragic loss of life to rights abuses and social tensions. And third, that effectively managing migration and protecting the rights of all migrants requires strengthened international cooperation. The Global Compact reflects the commitment of the international community to make migration work for all, to make it a source of prosperity and solidarity, not a byword for inhumanity. 3 years on, this task remains as urgent as ever. I commend all who have taken concrete steps to improve the lives of migrants by helping them integrate into host countries, by facilitating regular pathways, and by advancing collaboration between countries of origin, transit and destination. However, much more can and should be done. As we prepare for the first ever International Migration Review Forum, my report offers several recommendations across 4 priorities. The first priority is to promote inclusive societies and include migrants in COVID-19 response and recovery efforts. Migrants have been severely impacted by the COVID-19 pandemic, and they play an outsized heroic role on the front lines of responding to the crisis, often putting themselves at risk to help others. Their remittances provide a vital lifeline for many families in countries where resources are scarce. And yet, migrants, particularly those with irregular status, are often excluded from recovery measures and denied access to basic services, whether health care or social protection. Many are experiencing growing stigmatization, racism, and xenophobia. Women and child migrants are facing higher risks of trafficking and exposure to gender-based violence, abuse, and exploitation. And others continue to be forcibly returned, often with insufficient regard to health risks, due process or procedural safeguards, including the best interest of the child. Encouragingly, we have seen a number of governments step up, working to better protect the human rights of migrants, irrespective of status, breaking down barriers to ensure non-discriminatory access to essential services, including vaccines, expanding and diversifying migration pathways, and suspending forced returns. It is imperative that all such measures become the norm, not the exception. The second priority is the need to promote safe and regular migration. Today, over 80% of the world's migrants move between countries in a safe and orderly fashion. But unregulated migration continues to